Ever pondered why America cannot ban firearms even if it wanted to? Now, that's a question that gets the gears turning, doesn't it? To answer that, we need to delve into the deep-rooted gun culture in America, which dates back to the country's very formation. Picture this. It's the late 18th century. The American Revolution is in full swing, and the country is fighting tooth and nail for independence. What was their weapon of choice? You guessed it, firearms. This was the birth of America's gun culture, a culture that would grow and evolve, becoming as American as apple pie and baseball. Fast forward to the drafting of the U.S. Constitution. The Founding Fathers, fresh off a revolution won with the aid of firearms, decided to enshrine the right to bear arms in the Second Amendment. This wasn't just about ensuring the country could defend itself, it was also about empowering individuals, giving them the means to protect their homes and their rights. But the gun culture isn't just about history and legislation, it's also deeply embedded in American society and popular culture. From the Wild West gunslingers of yesteryears to the action movie heroes of today, firearms are celebrated, romanticized, and often seen as symbols of power and freedom. And let's not forget about the social aspects. Hunting trips, shooting ranges, gun shows, these are social events, bonding experiences, and rites of passage for many Americans. They're part of the fabric of American life, woven in through generations of tradition. So when we talk about banning firearms in America, we're not just talking about regulating a piece of hardware, we're talking about challenging a culture, a history, and an identity. It's about more than just the guns themselves. It's about what they represent to millions of Americans. So the historical and cultural ties to firearms are not easily severed. But is there more to it? Well, I'm glad you asked. Stick around and we'll delve deeper into why America and guns are like peanut butter and jelly, an unlikely combo that just seems to stick. What about the legal aspects? Aren't they a significant part of the equation? Indeed they are, and the Second Amendment to the United States Constitution is the cornerstone of this legal dimension. It states, and I quote, "The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed." But what does that really mean? Well, in the simplest terms, it means that every American citizen has the right to own a gun. However, it's not as straightforward as it sounds. The interpretation of this amendment has sparked countless debates, lawsuits, and even Supreme Court rulings. Some argue that the right to bear arms is an individual right, while others contend it's a collective right, tied to service in a militia. This ambiguity in interpretation is a significant hurdle in the path of those advocating for a blanket ban on guns. You see, to change the Constitution, it requires a constitutional amendment, and that, my friends, is no easy feat. It would require approval from 2/3 of both the House of Representatives and the Senate, and then ratification by 3/4 of the states. To say this is difficult would be an understatement. But let's not forget another critical aspect: individual liberties. These are the freedoms guaranteed to individuals, like the right to free speech or the freedom of religion. The right to bear arms is considered by many Americans as one of these individual liberties. It's seen as a fundamental freedom, deeply ingrained in the fabric of American society. So even if the legal hurdles could be overcome, there's the question of whether Americans would be willing to give up this cherished liberty. Would they be prepared to surrender a right that many believe is vital to their personal safety and freedom? The legal hurdles are as daunting as the cultural ones. But what about the economic side of things? And that's where we'll journey next, into the labyrinth of the gun economy. But that's a tale for another scene. Ever considered how much money is involved in the gun industry? It's not just a hobby for some or a means of defense for others. It's a massive economic machine. The firearms industry in the United States is a titan of the economy, contributing billions of dollars and supporting countless jobs. From manufacturers to retailers, from the ammunition factories to the shooting ranges, the industry branches out like a vast tree, each limb providing livelihoods and pumping money into the economy. In fact, the firearms industry contributes over $30 billion annually to the US economy. That's a hefty sum of money, isn't it? Imagine the impact of erasing that from the economic landscape. It's not just the big corporations that would feel the pinch. Small businesses, mom-and-pop gun stores, and local shooting ranges would face a significant blow. And what about the employees? Thousands of jobs would be at risk, from the factory floor to the sales counter. And let's not forget the role of the gun lobby. These groups wield considerable influence, advocating for the rights of gun owners and the industry as a whole. They pump millions of dollars into political campaigns, ensuring their voice is heard loud and clear in the corridors of power. A ban on guns would undoubtedly face fierce resistance from these groups, adding yet another layer of complexity to the issue. And then there's the question of taxes. The firearms industry generates billions of dollars in tax revenue each year. This money helps fund crucial services from healthcare to education. Without this revenue, state and federal budgets could take a significant hit. So it's not just about the right to bear arms or the cultural significance of guns. The economic implications are significant too. The firearms industry is a web of connections, linking jobs, revenue, and political influence. It's an integral part of the US economy, so the economic implications are significant. But what about the practicality of implementing such a ban? Would a gun ban even be feasible in the US? Let's break it down. Firstly, we need to consider the sheer number of guns already in circulation. It's estimated there are over 300 million firearms in the hands of private citizens in the US. That's almost one gun for every man, woman, and child. Imagine trying to gather up every single one of them. It would be like trying to find a needle in a haystack, but the haystack is the size of Texas, and the needle can shoot bullets. Now let's turn our attention to the difficulties of enforcement. Prohibition in the 1920s showed us that banning something doesn't automatically make it disappear. Instead, it often pushes it underground, creating a black market. The same could happen with guns. Without proper regulation, we could see an increase in illegal firearms, making it even harder for law enforcement to control the situation. But let's not just speculate. Let's look at some real-world examples. In countries like Australia and the United Kingdom, strict gun control measures have been implemented. But the context is different. These countries don't have the same ingrained gun culture or constitutional rights to bear arms. And even then, it wasn't an overnight success. It took years of effort, political will, and public support. In Japan, another country with stringent gun laws, the process of obtaining a firearm is so rigorous and time-consuming that most people don't bother. But again, it's a different culture, a different society. You can't just copy and paste solutions from one country to another and expect it to work flawlessly. In the end, it's not just about the practicality of implementing a gun ban, it's about the ripple effects it would cause. It's about the potential for unintended consequences. It's about understanding that a single solution may not fit all. The practicality of such a measure is questionable, but what about public opinion? That's a whole other can of worms, and we'll dive into it in the next scene. What does the American public think about a potential gun ban? That's a million-dollar question, isn't it? And it's a question that's as colorful and diverse as a Saturday morning cartoon lineup. You see, public opinion in America on gun control is much like a seesaw, constantly swinging back and forth. On one side, we have folks who believe in tighter gun control laws. They argue that with stricter regulations we can reduce gun violence and make our communities safer. It's a noble cause, no doubt. But then, on the other side of this seesaw, we have those who staunchly defend their right to bear arms. They argue that it's not just about hunting or self-defense, but about protecting their constitutional rights. They fear that a gun ban would be the first step on a slippery slope towards infringing on their liberties. Now you might be thinking, okay, that's all well and good, but how does this affect policy decisions? Well, my friend, that's where things get really interesting. You see, in the grand cartoon of American politics, public opinion plays a starring role. Politicians are acutely aware that their power comes from the people. They know that if they want to remain in office, they must listen to the voices of their constituents. And with such a stark divide in public opinion on gun control, any action or inaction carries significant political risk. Imagine you're a politician. If you champion a gun ban, you could alienate a large portion of your supporters who believe in the right to bear arms. But if you oppose a gun ban, you risk upsetting those who are clamoring for stricter gun control laws. It's like being caught between a rock and a hard place, or should we say, between a Tweety bird and a Sylvester. So, with public opinion divided, the path to a gun ban seems fraught with challenges. It's a complex issue that requires careful consideration and balanced action. But isn't that what makes the great American experiment so fascinating? It's like a never-ending cartoon, full of twists, turns, and unexpected surprises. And who doesn't love a good cartoon, right? So, could America ban guns even if it wanted to? We've delved into the historical and cultural significance of firearms, navigated the choppy waters of legal and economic implications, questioned the practicality of enforcement, and felt the weight of public opinion. This isn't a simple yes or no question, it's a complex tapestry woven with the threads of history, law, economy, and public sentiment. The answer, it seems, is far from straightforward. The debate continues, and only time will tell what the future holds for gun control in America.